Yeah, that's
That's
true.
awesome. Yeah.
And well, the thing about Facebook too is, yeah, just having the last name doesn't necessarily mean that they come from the
Hmm.
same lineage. Because
Yeah, that
I
is true.
remember looking one time or a long time ago, and then all these people from Turkey came up with the same last name.
Oh,
Oh wow.
They
Yeah.
were not Filipino, but
no.
I,
yeah, same last name. It was really interesting. So I don't know, maybe the origin
Same with
of my
Padua.
last name.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Padua.
Mm.
there's
Yeah, that's right.
Padua.
Yeah.
There's a lot of not Filipinos, but
Yeah.
it but actually Cage's aunt is she's like doing a whole, it's all on her that
Mhm.
she's just tracing everybody's lineages on their own. But it was a name that changed, that his Cage's grandfather changed his name when he joined, back when all of the army stuff, everybody was coming,
Yeah.
the visas, all those things. So he changed his name from like Pedro, I forgot, Balitag or something, to Agustin Padua. So that was his, and I know that my grandfather Ernesto Ocab changed it from like T-Wing, I think is the, but I
Oh
asked my
wow.
dad, and like, you'd think you go to your parents, but then sometimes there's like, I don't know, that's, so I have to, then you kind of try to see, you can ask, is there an uncle or auntie that kind of knows a little bit more than my parent does? And hopefully there
Yeah.
is, like that's
That,
where, I mean,
that's quite common. Like the
yeah,
changing in
mhm.
the names. I mean,
yeah.
like my wife's original name is, original name is Gitilin.
Mm.
But then her great great grandfather changed it to Puutin, or is it the great grandfather? I think changed it to Puutin, and so they change it, especially. So Okab, was that your great grandfather's name,
Just my
or
grandfather. He
you're just
just,
was that
yeah,
his
I mean,
actual name, Okab?
no, his name was Ernesto. See, on my dad's
Mm.
side, I don't know, in Benguet. Yeah, my mom likes to point, or my mom has like told me that like a lot of,
Uh-huh.
um well, yeah, like most Igorots, you just have one name. Like, so you'll
One
have
name in the old days.
four
Yeah.
siblings, and they each have their own name. And
Right.
then
Right.
but when what is it called? When the missionaries came, they gave them
They
a
gave the
first name.
Christian name.
So those
Mhm.
four names became the, same.
Right.
I mean, same family, different last names.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't know where, you know, but from my dad's side, the Benguet side, it was already like, I only know up to my great grandfather, and his name was Clemente Laoyan. So obviously there's already the influence was like there. And then all of my dad's siblings, they all sound like they're named from presidents, because it's like Harrison and Newton and Goodwin and Johnson. And I was like, where did you get
Johnson
these
too.
names from?
Nixon? Anybody named
Wow.
Nixon?
So,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
but yeah, so I don't know where, but I try to ask my dad, and he's kind of like the middle kid in the 16 of them. He's in the middle. But
Jesus, that is
I try to
crazy.
ask
Mm.
him, and he just kind of like, I don't know, he knows. So I have to, that's the kind of things like, my cousins and I would just kind of try to
Yeah.
keep asking, but we haven't, there's not a lot of people on my grandfather's side that we know of.
You know what I find really interesting is how like a lot of these names originated, and it not necessarily based on meaning, but it phonetically sounds good to the
Mhm.
ears. And then they think, oh, okay, the meaning's good too. But a lot of times it was based on it phonetically sounded good, like Owatan, which is where Watan comes from, which
Mm.
is our great great grandfather's name, or great
A
great
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 grandfather.
grandfather's name. A great
Um,
grandfather's name is Uwatan, but then somehow it got changed to Watan.
and
Mm.
somewhere along the lines,
Yeah.
a few of his descendants decided to cut the O part and just make Watan. And the best explanation I could hear from that is either when the Americans were taking down those registration names, they just cut the O part and made it Watan, and then or or
You
when
didn't hear the O, because a
you
lot of
didn't hear the
Ilocanos, they
O.
always say O in front of,
Oh,
sometimes they
yeah, yeah.
say O. A lot of Ilocanos say it.
Mhm.
So like
Then
probably when they went down, they didn't hear the O, they just heard Watan.
yeah, and then when they heard it, and then our ancestor is looking at that, it's like, oh, okay, that sounds good.
Mhm.
And they don't bother to go back and change it. And maybe because it's so much of a hassle to change it.
Well, yeah,
But
they're walking by foot.
yeah. So then they're just like, oh, okay, that sounds good. That's the name.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times, if it phonetically sounds good, we had an uncle who changed his name, changed the spelling of the name, Poklai, which is pronounced Poklai, but it's spelled in several different variations, which is my dad's mom's side,
Mhm.
but it has several
This is
different
the side that's
variations
related,
in it.
KJ.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah,
yeah.
the poke life side.
And so the variation spelling of the name is different. My dad takes it on as Puclay.
That's the original spelling, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the spell. But then my uncle changed it somehow to Poklay.
He wanted it to be closer to like the modern
What it sounded.
Filipino romanization. Yeah, because
Oh,
you know the
interesting.
modern Filipino romanization, there's no C, there's just K.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
That's the Tagalog from the Tagalog writing, right? But I think he wanted to update it, is what he did. Because if you'll see in a lot of these clan reunions, sometimes people have the same name but spelled differently.
Yeah.
Like my cousin, her last name's Tawakan, right? Gosh, there's like 10 different spellings of Tawakan, you know?
Oh, how
Like,
funny.
yeah,
And that's
sometimes with the
also on
Q.
our grandmother. That's our grandmother on our dad's side's mother's side on her mom's side. That's the Tewakan side.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty common. So like that's how I was like, wow, Ukab. I wonder if you know what's interesting too is that people's names change over time too. Like the Gitilan to Pautun, there was a reason why the name was changed, and that was because of his personality. You know, he's born with one. His personality when he was born gave him one name, but then like later on when he grew up, his personality, or his deeds, and what he's done changed. So then they changed his name to Pautun.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
That's true.
But you're not the only one, by the way, who's seen their name connected with non-Filipino. Because our last name Watan, you know, most people connect us to Japanese, but that's usually like Watanabe or something like that.
Oh, right.
But you know who they? It's because Watan in Arabic means nation. So like I've met
or the
like
land.
Yeah, or land, and I've met like other folks who speak Arabic, and they told me, they said, your last name is Watan? And I was like, yeah. Do you know what that means in my country? And then, so my older cousin, who didn't realize that our last name was changed from Watan to Watan, before he talked to me, he said, I did a Facebook search and I found all these Watans.
Oh,
but
no.
none of them are Filipino.
Yeah.
Like, that's because our great-grandfather changed the name. That's but it was either actually it could have been it was either his children that probably changed the name because they're the ones that had to register the name. So could even be our grandpa, who knows. Unfortunately, they're all passed away, so we don't know that history.
Yeah, that's always the hardest.
The people would actually know. We weren't old enough to think of these questions.
Right. That's that's the hardest part. It's like when you come of age. That's when your resources are a lot more limited.
Well, for Audrey's last name, that was it was changed, but it was also changed again because of a typo or something. Like it wasn't spelled correctly.
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't always Castro. I think it was meant to be Castor, but that didn't even happen.
Oh my
But then
gosh.
that was changed from. I'm not gonna say it because I'm just gonna butcher it. I don't remember it properly. But it wasn't always Castro. So if they do a last name search, that's gonna be totally different.
So perhaps then doing the DNA search might be quite helpful if people go on to the ancestry.com
I guess if it's
or
DNA
23andMe.
based.
Yes, exactly.
DNA based, yeah.